Hey YouTube, what's up? Ember1205 here for the Hot Camaro channel. I thought I would take a few minutes today and show you a little bit of kind of behind the scenes, if you will, what goes on with putting these videos together, and more interestingly, I think, what I'm using to actually record everything, mix it down, edit it, and so on. Because I've run into some things that I found were good and useful, and I've run into some things that I found were not so good and not so useful. So I figured I'd take a few minutes, share some stuff with you. If you guys have some thoughts, ideas, whatever, please share them down below. Definitely looking for your input and feedback on this stuff, but hopefully there's some helpful stuff for you here as well. So let's take a look. All right, let's take a look first at the audio piece. So I have an audio lavalier microphone set that I bought. This is fairly inexpensive for what it is. Bought this off of Amazon, and it came with a few actually pretty useful pieces. Now there's a lot of stuff in here that I don't use. So you can see that there's headset mic type pieces. There's other microphone attachments, various cables and such that I don't, at this point anyway, that I don't use. The pieces that I do use, however, which everybody would use, is going to be the transmitter itself, and then I have a clip-on microphone that I will commonly wear, and I keep this clipped up on the collar of my shirt, so that when the camera moves around and the distance between the microphone and myself changes and whatnot, the audio will stay fairly current. I'm not using it right now because I'm indoors, I'm not moving, the camera's facing one direction, and I want to be able to actually show this, so I am not actually using this at this time. Now, the other half of this is a receiver piece, and on this there's a plastic clip that it goes into, like a guide or a holster, and you can see where this moves. I have also gotten with it an adapter to take the large size headphone jack, right, and convert it down to the small size, right? So go down to the 3.5 millimeter. And then because I use this with a couple different devices that have a USB-C connector on them, including a device I'll show you in a couple minutes, I connect it all the way down here to adapt it this way. These are both rechargeable. The cables came with it to be able to plug this in and charge it up. You turn them both on, you pick a frequency if you need to, and off you go. Really simple and straightforward, works pretty well. Something else that came with it that I'm glad that I got is there's an expandable holder, right? So this slides out and it's spring loaded. And this is intended to hold like a smartphone, for example. So I have this, on the top here is a little slotted piece where I can put this basically like shoe adapter in, and I can tighten this down. And then on the underside of the clip for the receiver, I can screw this in, give it a couple of turns, and then tighten it up with the threading here. So now this is basically, mounted right to what would be the phone holder. Now on the other side, again, I have a threaded piece. And if I don't want to use this, I could take this out and just, you'll see what I could do. I could screw this directly together into the base of the receiver, but I have a small tripod piece that came with it. I can put this in, pull the three legs out, and I have a small tripod device that I can use with something like a smartphone, so that I can clip this in here, and then my audio connection can connect into the phone device itself, whatever that might happen to be. I am not going to be able to show you that connection right now just because of the way that I've got everything set up, but I'll get to that in a few more minutes. So if I'm doing something that allows me to put the phone into a particular position and just kind of leave it there for a while and it's level like that, I can use this tripod device and it'll work pretty well. And I can do little things like maybe taking some sort of a shim or piece of material or something, right? And I can put it under a couple of the legs, or I can put it under one of the legs, and I can get that to tilt a little bit, but I don't have a lot of range of motion. So if I'm looking for more range of motion, believe it or not, what I actually use is this dash top beanbag mount that's intended for a Garmin GPS device. And what I've done is I've taken off the bracket that the GPS would mount to, and I've replaced it with an iOTtie phone holder. And with this, I can move this into different positions this way. I can also twist, and I can tilt up and down. So if I'm in a situation where, again, I've got something that's going to be kind of longer term and it's going to be at a particular angle, I can pop a phone in here just like as if I were doing this, you know, in a vehicle. And then I can position this, point it up, point it down, whatever I need to get out of it. And that'll give me good stability at a fixed angle that's not just perfectly perpendicular. So that's another option that I have. Another piece of equipment that I can use that I really have not used much, if any at all, is actually a tablet. So this happens to be an original generation iPad Pro, and it has the integrated keyboard. So I can set this whole thing up, and I can tilt it around like this. And if I wanted to, I can set this up so that I turn the screen on and go in and I launch the video recorder, and I can shoot videos with the front-facing camera where I'm looking down into it if I want to do something kind of looking up at me. So this is another option that I have. Now the piece that I use most, now anyway, is actually a new addition to the stable. I'm using it at the moment, so I can't show it to you, but it happens to be a GoPro camera. And what I did is over this past holiday, this past Christmas season, Costco was offering a special discount on their Hero 8 kit, or whatever you want to call it. And that kit consists of the camera, a 32 gig SD card, 2 batteries, all of the various, you know, cables and things that you need, plus an adhesive mount, this carry bag, and then it also has a small, like 7 or 8 inch tall stick, kind of like a selfie stick sort of thing. The whole thing was $100 off of their regular price, which is I think $330, so $230 plus tax for me as a Costco member. And I got a pretty complete kit. And although at the time the Hero 9 was out and available, I did not opt to go that direction simply because the 8 has everything that I would need and then some, and the cost difference to go to a Hero 9 with all the other pieces and such just didn't make sense. So where I was headed with everything from a video standpoint is I was going to get into a lot more image stabilization and things like that, where I was going to be using a gimbal. So I started down the path of checking out various different gimbals that were out there, and I ultimately decided that I was going to go ahead and buy the iSteady Mobile Plus and give it a shot. So it came, nice little zippered case, and real simple what's inside. The gimbal itself, a small tripod piece, much like what came with my my audio setup, and then a cable to use for charging and some other stuff. Now, I very quickly realized that this is not something that was going to be helpful for me. Now, as I mentioned, I use the microphone system, and it has this connector that has to plug into the phone if I'm using it. And what happens with this gimbal, and I come to realize that this happens with all of them, is that the way that you properly mount the phone, first of all, is you have to be willing to risk the life of your phone. You cannot correctly and properly and securely mount your phone in a gimbal if it's in a case. You have to take it out. So that's problem number one. Problem number two is that with some of them, on a larger phone, now this is a XS, iPhone XS, on some of them, the size of the larger phone, you can see that I've still got some space here, but some of the larger phones, the size is such that you can't get these jaws to open wide enough, and you have to slide the phone in from the top. The biggest problem is that the only way to correctly install the phone, because of the way that the different apps work, is you have to put the bottom of the phone down against this piece. And what that means is that you're taking the bottom of the phone where that port is, where you would connect an audio cable, and you are completely restricting it, that you cannot get to it once it's mounted in the gimbal itself. And to me, that's a major fault and is a big problem. The next problem that I ran into is that in order to properly use a gimbal, you have to put your phone in it, and then you have to go through the process of balancing this thing so that it's held perfectly in place where it needs to be without the device being turned on. So in the case of this phone, for example, I would have to loosen this a little and make some adjustments, whether it be up or down, to get everything into the right position so that it would sit level, and that's not level, right? So I'd be tinkering with this constantly. And what I found is that it takes just a ridiculous amount of time to go through the process of balancing one of these things, and you have to do it every single time you put your phone in there. And because I use two different phones, and because I had thought about, hey, why don't I get the adapter bracket so that I can put my GoPro in there, now I've got 3 different devices that potentially have to go into this thing, all of which have to be uniquely balanced every single time that I use them. With the phone that I use the most, which happens to be a Google Pixel device, and it's one of the XLs, so it's larger, what I found with that one is that I have to loosen this, this little knurled nut here and bring this bracket all the way down to the bottom and tighten it back up. And that's okay, except as this swings, what I was finding is that it was periodically rubbing as it was going through its motion right here. And that rub, because again, I can't use any kind of external microphone here, right? I'm using the microphone in the phone. That rub would get picked up on the audio track of whatever I recorded every single time. So another major fail. Now, a lot of the vendors out there include these things where they tell you that you can, oh, look, you can pop this open and you can plug a cable in there and you can charge your connected device. No, you can't. Again, the phones require that they be slid in this way and that they put in a position so that the charging port is blocked. There is no way to charge a device that you have in here, even though that just about every vendor advertises that as an option. So the case was fine, but as soon as I started down the path of trying to use this, I just ran into one problem after another. And what I originally had thought was that maybe it was just a really bad design on the part of this particular vendor and their product. So I went ahead and I bought some additional gimbals to try them out as well. The next one I bought is from a company, I think it's pronounced Aoni. This one, same kind of thing, zippered case, basically the same things that are inside, all the same problems, no different. So the next one that I decided to try is from a company called, I think, Zhiyun. And that's the biggest problem, I think, with these things, is that you can't actually pronounce the names of any of the vendors. So this one came, and upon pulling this one out of the box, my first thing that I ran into is that before I even got to potential issues with the gimbal itself, I ran into problems with the case. Now this is like a styrofoam-ish type case. It's not styrofoam, it's a little different. And the case itself isn't bad, but the problem is there's a plastic hinge that's glued in here, and this just isn't going to hold up. This is going to break. It's the only thing holding the top and the base together, and when it breaks, I'm going to be in a position where the case is going to be kind of, it's not going to work real well. I did like that this particular one had a tripod that had some longer legs to it, so it would provide a little bit additional stability. But again, all the same problems as all of the other brands, nothing new here, exact same issues. I went a step further, and I decided that the problem I was running into was my own fault. I decided that what I was doing was I was focusing on kind of the entry models of all of the various gimbals that were out there, right? The $90, $100, $125 gimbals. So what I did was I went ahead and bought one more from a company called Fiutech, and it's their G6 Max. This one was like $250 or $275, $300. I forget exactly what the price. But this one has the same kind of polystyrene foam, styrofoam sort of case with that plastic hinge. And again, I don't trust it. Still comes with, you know, mostly the same things. There are some additional adapters and such in here. So here's a regular shoe if you want to put like a regular camera on here. You can flip this over and you have the GoPro mount that you can snap this in on a GoPro holder or put a GoPro on here. The way that the gimbal is designed, it's set up at a variety of different angles, so it doesn't start straight up and down like the bulk of them do. This one actually starts with things kind of off at an angle. But again, all the same problems. And this one is even harder to balance. So I just basically got to a point with these things very quickly where I said, these are not cutting it. They're not doing what I need them to do. And I gave up. So I'm sticking with the GoPro and my smartphone, and that's just how I'm going to shoot these videos because it works. All right, one last little tidbit just to show you that not everything that you see is glamorous. So I told you about the tripod things and such, right? But let me just show you that I have a paper towel holder with that little stick handle from the GoPro and the camera sitting on top of it. And that is what I have been using to shoot the bulk of this video, all pointed right down here at the surface of the counter where I was bringing all the different items in and out for you to take a look at. So just keep in mind that not everything that you see in a finished video was done as kind of cleanly and simply as you might think it may have been. And sometimes there's some weird tricks that go on kind of behind the scenes. All right, so there you have it. That's how I get all the content pulled together. When it's all said and done, I jump over to my Mac. I grab the SD card or the smartphone and connect it up by USB-C cable or whatever I might happen to use. Get the files transferred onto the Mac. It's all basically an MP4 format. And then from there, I draw everything into Apple's iMovie. And I can trim, I can shorten, I can add simple little transitions. And that's how I put this stuff together. So, there's not a lot that goes into it, but it takes time. So this video will end up coming out to probably somewhere between, I'm guessing, 17, 18, maybe 19 minutes, all told. And it'll probably, when it's all said and done, take me probably about an hour to put the whole thing together and get the system to actually convert everything into the MP4 file, and then I just upload it to YouTube. So that's it. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification button, and please, share your comments, share your thoughts. If you have a channel and you want to share some of the things that you do to put content together, if you've got suggestions for how I can do things better, please share all that stuff down below. Until next time, Ember 1205, out.